Welcome to On the Record, where we pull back the curtain on politics and policy and address pressing issues that confront the African American community. I'm your host, Ebony McMorris, White House correspondent for American Urban Radio Networks, and I am here joined with America's foremost civil rights leader, Reverend Al Sharpton, host of MSNBC's Politics Nation, the Al Sharpton Show on Sirius XM, and also president of the National Action Network. Rev, welcome back. How are you?
I'm great, Ebony. Good to be with you.
Absolutely. Especially during this month, I'm happy to be with you because in a month where we are really honoring Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy. And you have a policy lunch that's going to be happening, breakfast that's going to be happening in Harlem. You also, tomorrow on King's birthday, are going to be hosting a breakfast in Washington, D.C. And all this before the big rally and march that is happening on the day of inauguration, but it is also MLK Day. And the biggest question, which we always ask around this time, is, Rev, where do we go from here?
Well, I think that what we must do is must respond en masse to what we're facing. Yes, tomorrow on Dr. King's actual birthday, we're having the breakfast that we would usually have on the holiday. But because the holiday is Inauguration Day, we figured we'd do the march that day and the breakfast tomorrow. Hakeem Jeffries and other members of Congress will be there. And we're going to talk about how we deal with voter protection. We're only 3 or 4 seats away from the midterm elections, which is only next year. They're starting to raise money now. How we deal with that and how we deal with they have targeted DEI. President-elect Donald Trump has said he's coming in, taking DEI out. Well, what we're going to do at the session on Saturday, where we have all the officials coming from New York and New Jersey, and then when we get back to Washington on Monday, we're going to gather and march from McPherson Park Square to Metropolitan AME Church. And I might say the reason we're going to Metropolitan is a historic church. That's where Frederick Douglass's funeral was. That's where we brought Rosa Parks' body. And we're going to stand on that sacred ground. And while Trump is putting his hand up, taking the oath to be the 47th president of the United States, I'm going to have the hundreds of us that march take an oath that we're going to keep Dr. King's dream alive. And how are we going to do that? We're going to announce that we're forming a commission that's going to study for 90 days those companies that enjoy a large consumer base in the Black community and have a small profit margin. And the 2 or 3 companies that have enjoyed the most and are now saying they're anti-DEI, then we're saying, fine. If you don't want to have diversity in your executives, you don't have diversity in your contracts, you don't have diversity in your advertising with Black media, you don't want to have diversity in terms of those that get applications, then you won't have diversity in your consumers. I grew up, when I was 13 years old, I became youth director of Operation Breadbasket's New York chapter, which was part of Dr. King's organization. It was the year he was killed. And I learned very young, if you call a withdrawal, which they would call a boycott, you don't have to stop everybody. If you've got a margin of profit of 3-4%, if I stop 6 people long enough, you're operating in the red. The only question is, can I keep them out longer than you can operate in the red? We need to make some examples out of people with DEI. Donald Trump can't make me spend my money where I don't want to. The House of Representatives or the Senate can't make me spend my money. So you want to go with that? Fine. Let their people be your consumer base. We're not going to do it. Where did we get that from? Dr. King, that's what he started in Montgomery. They said it was better to walk with dignity than ride with shame. We're going to do some dignified shopping. We are not going to be paying and buying from people that disrespect us. You want to go with Trump? Let him buy your stuff.
Rob, we've been seeing a rollback of these companies one by one, piggybacking off of each other. Have you heard back? I mean, I know people we've been railing about it. Have you heard back from any of the companies and what they think or how they feel? I mean, we even just saw the announcement with Meta Mark Zuckerberg talking about getting rid of fact checking. I mean, we honestly know what a lot of that is about. We already had issues with that anyway, with how it was run, but we're seeing it on so many different fronts. Have you been able to communicate with any of these business owners?
Some of the companies have talked to us, but again, they've got to publicly come out.
Right.
Otherwise, I'm not going for these private conversations. That's why we're gonna publicly do, drop the list. We're gonna start and make the commitment on Monday, and 3 months later in April, we're gonna release. These are the companies we're going after. The reason we've not heard anything is that we have not fought back. So
Mm,
there's nothing for them to respond to. Trump has shot a barrel across the barrel. We've not shot back. So
yeah.
companies are only responding to him. But if they had an alternative that they had to deal with, they have to now choose between their black and their brown and other consumer bases and Donald Trump, who ain't gonna give them nothing. We used to have an expression when I was growing up in the movement that rabbit hunting ain't fun when the rabbit got the gun. If the bear or the hunter was running up in them trees and the rabbit was laying up there waiting with a rifle, they'd stop, they'd go hunt something else. We
Mm,
need to say, okay, fine, bam, we got the gun now. Now what you gonna do? We've
absolutely.
not given them nothing to respond to.
Mm. You bring up diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're in the time of transitions of power and confirmation hearings and confrontations, and we see the confirmation hearing happening right now with Pete Hegseth to be the defense secretary, and many of the members are running back comments that he's made when it comes to not wanting women to be in infantry, but quoting numbers of women who are actually in infantry, saying that moms shouldn't be in the military. All the things that he said, women have made it weaker. And now he's, when I say backpedaling, it is almost if he doesn't even remember saying the words or the book that he wrote that includes some of these words. And in it, he also made some type of connection to where he felt like standards were being lower when it comes to gender and race. This is someone who Trump has tapped to be our defense secretary.
Trump has been very open and blatant that he's gonna put people in that share his disregard for having diversity and taking down the walls that stop people that are able from getting their proper place. They're trying to act like when I heard Hegseth saying we need to deal with merit. We always had merit. Law prevented our merit from being considered. There were segregation laws. This wasn't no custom. It wasn't no. My mother was born and raised in Dothan, Alabama. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. She did not go to certain schools because of a custom. She did not sit in the back of the bus because of the culture. It was the law. And the law must compensate for what the law did. And all of this nonsense about, well, I ain't no slaves alive. Slaves, my mama had to deal with Jim Crow. She couldn't help me with some schooling because she couldn't go to school. We ain't talking about 100 years ago. We talking about right now. And but the way to take the bass out their voice is to
Mm.
start pulling out dollars. That's what Dr. King taught us.
That's the only thing that's going to move it out. I think that when we look at what is happening in the U.S. right now, on one end we see fires burning
Right.
California. They just announced that there's another fire that is happening that is started up there.
And you got one of them saying that was DEI firefighters. They
I
don't
was go-
know who it is, but they blame it on black folks.
We have that on in one side. The other side, we got snow in Atlanta. And every time I turn the news, I'm like, it is like one side of this earth is just cold to things, the other one it is burning. And I feel like it is so synonymous about what we are seeing as we come to this transition of power.
I think that when you look at, and it's interesting you say that because I think about that every morning in my meditation. When I get up before dawn and
I know. I
do
see the
some prayer.
notice.
Yeah, prayer and meditation, then go work out. And I think that some of the signs is that God is still in charge. I can make your warm places cold with snow, and I decide to win. And
Mm,
that message to me is that if we stand up, God will hold us up. God is still in charge. And I think that the way that the United States government has poisoned the earth is you're reaping what you sowed.
mm.
This climate change is real. What we're seeing is real. We're seeing the Celsius at a level we've never seen before. And this is causing the shift in weather because we have violated the nature like we are gods. And God is God. And I think that we will suffer until we start respecting the natural order that God has given us.
They are trying to blame it on Mayor Karen Bass. This black woman. I mean, from everything from the budgets, things that she couldn't control. Things. I mean, it is. I think what we also need, and you let me know what you think on this, is the targeting. Even more so, we've seen it before. Targeting of black leadership, targeting of Democrats. Even more as we go forth in this season, just like we're already seeing when it comes to this fire. I've seen people bring up Katrina and say, "Well, Katrina was a little different. Things they couldn't control this." I mean, it is really sad and sick. Some of many of the all of the MAGA efforts that seem like get more headwind than truth, Rev.
I think that when you look at the fact that they're going to blame Mayor Karen Bass for cuts in some of the services that she did not do. That she was in Ghana for legitimately the swearing in of a new president and headed right back. It reminds me of people during President Obama's tenure that said that they were against Obamacare but loved the Affordable Care Act. I mean, just always scapegoating somebody. What Karen Bass is going through is an absolute insult to the intelligence of people. But it is also the cross we have to bear. And we've stood by people in the past wrongly singled out and wrongly criticized. We must stand by Karen Bass.
Mm. As we move forward, coming getting closer to this transition, we saw President Biden. I'm going to talk about his legacy for a second. He just announced another major milestone in student debt relief. His administration canceled more loans for more than 500. They've done for more than 5 million Americans, including 150,000 borrowers. That was just approved just days ago. So he just a few more days left. What do you think when reflecting on the this Biden administration?
I think that Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris probably has the best civil rights record I can remember. He put a black woman on the Supreme Court, put a black woman who is the first woman and black woman to be vice president. He, in the Inflation Reduction Act, made sure that blacks were included. We sat and met with him and dealt with that. The same with the infrastructure bill. He made sure that it covered our communities. He put trillions of dollars in black educational facilities, including billions in HBCU. And I think that when you look at the fact that he has appointed more blacks and more black women to the federal courts, it will take decades for them to try to uproot that. So the student debt loan disproportionately helps our community. And he did it. They had the conservative Supreme Court try to reduce it. He came and found another way to continue to do it and announced it this way. So I think that history will be kind to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And I think that we should thank them But then the best way to thank them is to get ready for the midterm, as we did in when 16 turned into disaster. We came back in 18 and took the House, and we can come back in 26 and correct the course that we're at present.
Absolutely. Rep, thank you so much. Before I go, what are some things that you think I always like to know? What do you think some things people need to pay attention to that we may not be paying attention to at this time?
I think we should pay attention to the fact that President elect Donald Trump is coming in declaring war on us with DEI. He has no major position in his cabinet with blacks. All the black men, they were talking about we'd do better under Trump. Well, why aren't y'all in the cabinet? You got the HUD guy, who we always had the HUD guy. So I think that we need to look at what we're seeing and understand that he is not going to do anything for us, and never was. He was there for years. He didn't do anything. Under George Floyd, when George Floyd happened, he was president. Breonna Taylor, he was president. Ahmaud Arbery, he was president. Did nothing. He don't do nothing now. The question is, are we going to stand up and do it ourselves?
Absolutely. Rep, thank you for coming on the record with me, sir. I look forward to seeing you at the breakfast and hearing the policies and changes that you all are going to be talking about, and also following up and keeping our listeners connected to what you are doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Always good to be with you, Evan.